souls, transforming worlds to a better wonder to behold. No poverty, zero hunger for the elderly or younger. Good health and well-being, good education, empowering women to become sensation. Clean water, sanitation is a right of every nation. Economic growth inclusive and sustained through industry innovation and purely dedication. Yeah, infrastructure be gain, reduce inequality for sure. Make human settlements secure. Take urgent actions to combat climate change. Conserve life below water and land. Ensure we do not estrange. Justice for all, a peaceful and empathetic nations. Let us all partner to achieve these goals and provide much needed salvation. Each one teach 10, no compensation. Each one teach 10, no compensation.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining. Good morning, good evening, namaste, hola, bonjour, keremed, terve, and maravan. This is Namya Joshi, your host for the day. Welcome to episode 91 of the podcast Each One Teach 10, an amazing world of STEM, an inspiring venture where we'll be discussing that STEM is a part of every day for every kid. We all will learn together how to build a STEM culture. Well, for today, my guest is Mr. Dan Rosenberg. Hello.
Hi, Namya. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Good to be with you.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a while, to give some context to the audience. So I met Dan during the BET 2024 in UK, and I was there at the LinkyThinks podcast, and it was amazing meeting him. And it's been a while, so that's absolutely an honor for me to talk to you again.
Well, that's very kind of you to say. Yeah, it was 9 months ago now, and I think it was only a very short chat, but I think we got a lot done.
Absolutely. Well, why don't we show our audience a short snippet of what we talked about? I have the video with me, so would you like to watch it?
Of course.
I can share the screen. Okay, let me know whenever the screen is visible. Okay, 1 minute. Yep, do you see it?
Not just yet. Oh, something's coming.
You can see it?
Yep.
All right, so let me just play this one for you. This was a short that was uploaded on the LinkyThinks channel. Go ahead and subscribe it if you haven't.
When I was your age, what you do didn't exist. How do you explain what you do or what you're known for when talking to an old person like me?
I'll of course say that I have been using Minecraft, that is a game, for the past 6 years to make education, better for students and making the classrooms more engaging. So I have designed the same lessons that we study in the book into a game. Students can explore the environment, they learn the lesson, and then even the assessments are performed in the Minecraft game itself. So in grade 6, I made my first lesson called the Egyptian civilization, and I asked my teacher, instead of the notes that you give us, they are very helpful. As an addition to that, I hope you use this. So she used that in the classroom, and I got the result instantly. The gaming experience is there along with the learning experience. So you are understanding the problem, the solution, and again enjoying at the same time as well.
Well, to be honest, I had an amazing time talking to you, and I think this was one of the highlight for me during the TED event. Thank you once again for inviting me.
No problem at all.
All right, so let's get today's discussion started. Well, before we begin, I would love to introduce our guest today. Dan Rosenberg is the co-founder and CEO of LinkyThinks, an award-winning education platform that focuses on teaching life skills alongside traditional school curricula. With background in biomedical sciences, financial services, and podcast media, Dan is an internationally recognized public speaker who has led the development of innovative products across multiple sectors. LinkyThinks offers online teaching, interactive workshops, and multi-sensory learning resources, helping children develop critical skills for future success. This approach aims to prepare them for impactful and fulfilling careers after school. But I'm totally excited for today's discussion. And to begin with, um, you have an incredibly varied background spanning, like I said, medical sciences, financial services, and more. So, how have these experiences shaped your vision for Linky Things and your approach to education?
It's an interesting one because I do have a very varied background, but that doesn't mean I have a successfully varied background. So I did study biomedical sciences. I didn't do very well in the end. I then went into accounting and finance. I didn't do very well. And I went from a number of things that have informed my journey. I learned from them. But if you look at them individually on paper, I didn't yield success. So my degree, my first career in accounting. And then it was the first time I ever did something where I realized I had to get over a sense of fear of failure, not just toe the line, go to university, get a job, but you've actually got to try. And that means making mistakes. That was when I was working in sustainable manufacturing in my mid-20s. I was a new dad, and I realized that there really isn't anything worth having if it wasn't difficult to attain. And I don't know if everybody agrees with that, but it was something that resonated with me. That I really felt fulfilled and really felt like I'd achieved something if there was a risk involved, if it was difficult to do. Not everything, or very few things that get handed to you on a silver platter that comes easily, are really worth having. And it was a difficult learning curve for me to already be established in some way as a young man with a family and a house and responsibilities, but to not feel fulfilled and to not feel successful, and then have to come back from that, make mistakes, learn from them, and then try and succeed. And as it turns out, many people all over the world, regardless of age, regardless of gender or ethnicity or background, feel similarly, that true feelings of success are when you have applied your own metrics of difficulty and earning to them. And it just so happens that around the latter years of me running this manufacturing business, my brother, Alexander, we call him Ali, had set up a tutoring company. He was a scientist and an artist and living in London. And you can't really make a living on those two things living in a city like London. So started tutoring children. And very quickly, his attitude towards education made him quite popular. And it was about linking different ways of thinking, taking art, taking science, taking different skills a child might have and putting them together to help them get through their schooling. And that wasn't a focus on test passing. It was a focus on skills building. How can you make a child be the best version of themselves? And as he's growing this, it's starting to get popular. He asked me for help in setting up the business, helping with the accounting side of things. And relatively quickly, it turned into a real business. And when the pandemic hit, all of his tutoring moved online and it became even more popular. So released income so that it could start to grow. And by the end of 2021, it got to the point where we decided we would launch this full time. So not only was it something that was seemingly doing good, but it was sustainable. And all of the things that I'd done that I'd felt that I was a failure at actually had given me these skills that were really applicable to creating and running a business that had never really done anything like this before. And it was applying those things that I and Alexander was feeling and thinking and going through, that actually we're being successful here. We're paying our bills, we're growing our families, and we're actually achieving things in the world by applying skills to make something better than the sum of their parts. And that's what we teach children to do. And if not for having made those mistakes and had those failures, I don't think we'd be in a position to do that.
Absolutely, that is indeed inspirational. And like listening to you just reminded me, like I had written this poem, The Symphony of Persistence, and I do have like the one verse that I wrote, like I made a quote of it, and I put that behind my phone if you can see that. Those who dare to persist in the rhythm of life, they exist. So that's what I, totally could think about while you were talking about it. So, like the varied experiences across different fields taught the importance of learning from failure and persistence to you. And I totally agree to the part that success doesn't come easy. And the journey is filled with challenges that shape our personal and professional growth. And these experiences, like with biomedical sciences, financial services, and others, have emphasized your skill building and how it is important, which now central to LinkyThinks vision as well. And like you with your brother, helping children become the best version of themselves through a focus on growth and development is the key. And since you worked upon together or with the shared vision, initial foundation led to a proper full-time sustainable initiative with a commitment of overcoming challenges and learning from them. So thank you so much for sharing that.
No problem. No problem. It might also be interesting to add. Um, I think many of us have grown up with parents that want us to succeed, and the general average version of success is getting the equivalent of A's in all your exams, in getting 100% or as close as possible in all of your tests, and that's understandable. That's our culture in most of the world. But how can you give a child a sense of success if they're differently abled, or if their aptitude is not the subjects in which they're being tested? Right? And we came to realize through our own experiences, what is it that makes for success in life? And success really is something that allows you to move to the next stage or to have greater opportunities. If getting all A's in your exams didn't lead you to possibly having a better career, then they wouldn't have value. So what has additional value to having a better career, to giving you social mobility, greater job opportunities? It's the skills that you and I are using right now in NAMIA, which is critical thinking skills. We're thinking, how do I answer that question in an interesting way? What should I ask him that's going to yield an answer that is going to stimulate conversation? How do I look that person in the eye and have a conversation and engage with empathy and interest? You make a child learn those skills by making them interested in it or finding what they are interested in. And it's a tagline that we tend to use a lot, is that interested people make interesting people. If a child isn't interested, they're not going to find it interesting. And if you use that thing they're being tested on to judge them, they're not going to be interesting to you. But if you find a child who can be interested in something, and it doesn't have to be maths or science or English, it could be just, for them, it could be Minecraft. For them, it could be singing. For them, it could be podcasting. As soon as they're interested, you give them the opportunity to be interesting. And that is the key to social mobility for them, even if they were never going to get all the A's. They might have the same opportunities or similar afforded to them by playing into what interests them.
Truly, interested people make interesting people. Absolutely. And again, like I think people would agree with this thought as well. That it's not about the straight A's that you get or the 4.0 GPA, but it's again at the end of the day, like what skills you learn from what you did at school and how you apply them ahead in the future, because that is what is going to matter. Other than like you just talking about, yeah, I got straight A's, but I have not been able to learn any skills and I've not been able to shape myself as an individual, which is more important over marks. Thank you. So, moving on to my next question for you. Like, we're talking about skills right now, how important it is to learn about the 21st century skills and make sure that we are shaping individuals who will be the future leaders. So, teaching relevant life skills that prepare children for the adult world is very important today. And how does LinkyThinks focus on this?
So we try and do it in as many ways as we have time and the resources to do it. The way we did it historically was through online group tutoring. So when you have a class of children all focused on the same screen, so like say in a Zoom room of 15 children, 20 children, their attention is on that one thing. You have to capture their attention. And it means that they all have to contribute equally, differently than if it were a classroom in person. And what we started off by doing was having curriculum topics that are essential for, in England, we call it 11 plus preparation. So that's age 9 to 11. You do these examinations to help decide on which school you progress to for secondary school or high school, as we call it here. And many of those schools judge based on interview, judge based on conversations with the children, in addition to the examinations and the assessments. So we realized that, well, if we focus on the curriculum topics as well as building these critical human-centric life skills that can't be replicated by AI or won't be gotten rid of with automation, these children are going to have a better chance at getting into those top schools, even if they don't get the top grades. If you've got a cohort of 100 children going for 10 places and they all have similar grades, the children that are more likely to stand out are those who are able to communicate the best version of themselves. So we started teaching life skills like communication, public speaking, media literacy, all sorts of different things, empathy, alongside the topics required by the curriculum or the exam. And as far as we understood it, that had never been done before. Then we started making resources like books and worksheets and items that a child could use, not just to pass tests, but to contextualize vocabulary in their English language homework, to help them understand empathy language or social and emotional literacy, whereby it means that they can not only understand themselves better in a moment of stress, but understand others as well, parents, teachers, or friends, and also teaching them the disparity between what you might feel inside you when you're upset or happy or angry or sad or whatever other synonyms you can think of for those words, and how you express that to the outside world. So we created products like the How Do I Feel wheel, which is essentially a game for children from 5 years old to, well, teachers use them in staff rooms as well for staff disputes, whereby you're given these images associated with internal emotions, like a broken heart or sausages sizzling in a pan or a ticking time bomb, and then given vocabulary associated with those images, so that the user, typically the child, can turn a dial on this product and say, well, that is an image that I feel is inside me. Oh, and there is the word associated with that image. So now I have autonomy of the language over how I feel. And then on the outer dial, there would be images of facial expressions, quite detailed facial expressions. Say, okay, well, when I feel like that, I think I look like this: frowning, growling, seething, gritted teeth, furrowed brow, and all of these vocabulary phrases that help them, again, take ownership of their expression. And then the teacher or the parent can sit down and try and understand in the child's own language that they have chosen. Because, well, listen, I'm in my mid-30s and I've been working in this field now for nearly 5 years. I still struggle to talk about my feelings and emotions, especially with my children. Imagine how difficult that must be for my children. But if I give them the tools to communicate to me, they're not using my language, I'm understanding theirs. And it creates a conversation about something that historically, as humans, we're only just starting to do. We're still learning as a society. So it's building on those skills, but applying them to real world situations like human interactions, like schools assessments. And I think the key success aspect to this is that in the world out there, employers everywhere are saying there's a huge skills gap between what they need from employees, and what they're actually getting. And that's typically critical thinking skills, problem solving skills, emotional language skills, which unfortunately those skills attainment levels are going down because we're all letting our children grow up on screens. And there is a big market out there for training post-university graduate age students those skills. So once you're ready to go into the world of work, we teach you those skills so you're ready for the world of work. Nobody's teaching that to 7-year-olds. Nobody's teaching that to children. Why can't we teach a child the difference between facts and opinions? Why can't we teach a child how to sit down and measure an emotional response before it turns into a heated argument, or understand that debating with somebody isn't shouting at somebody, it's listening to somebody before you give your own version of the argument? These are things that we spend as a society millions upon millions upon millions of dollars teaching to adults. We could do better by teaching them a little bit earlier. And that's how we approach it. It's skills alongside what we mandate they have to learn at school. And one of the things that comes up in conversation a lot with customers and users, parents and teachers is, well, what about the curriculum itself? Where we are in the UK, similarly in the US and all over the English-speaking world, we love to complain about how the education system is not doing a very good job of educating our children, especially the state education systems. But the systems are so large and so old, they're almost impossible to break down and rebuild. So what we do is not rigidly adhere to that broken system. And we definitely don't say, we're going to smash it down and build it. No one can do that. What we do is we say, how about we create something that is flexible enough to move with any changes, so it can be applied to the British curriculum, the US curriculum, the Indian, Australian, New Zealand curriculum. So it has to be flexible, but is parallel to it enough that it's not written off as an extracurricular exercise or pushed into the box of soft skills learning, which can happen. And so far, it's proving very effective. We're only now, so we've been running this full time as a team since 2021, but we launched our new platform in January this year, not long before you and I met at BET, and it's proving that it's effective.
Absolutely. I think I've been able to gather that LinkyThinks again focuses on teaching relevant life skills, because that is in the end what matters. Because like you're talking about how the workspace nowadays is not just focusing on how good you are at coding or how good you are at accounting or how good you can manage Excel sheets, but how good are you at expressing yourselves by, being calm in situations wherein you have a problem, but then you'll be able to come back and solve that problem rather than cribbing that I have not been able to do it. What do I do now? So it just doesn't matter how good of professional skills you have, but how good of personal, social, emotional, and critical thinking skills you have. And again, you've done that through teaching online group tutoring, capturing students' attention, and preparing them for, the grade 11 plus topics. And the goal is not just for academic success, but also to build essential skills like communication, which is going to help them stand out and succeed in their life. And again, it is the utmost important thing to address the disparity between internal and external expressions and emotions. That again is going to foster the importance of well-rounded development, that you need to know how to express yourself. And when you're talking about, I think, debating, I've had personal experiences about that in the class, that usually people do think that if we are debating with somebody regarding a topic that the other person raised, and if you have a different thought, it is not shouting at the other person, but it's just putting your opinion ahead. But many people do not realize this thing. And if they do, that is an amazing thing, because it's important that we need to learn about how to agree to disagree and then come down to a proper conclusion. Because I think having a positive argument or putting your opinion ahead, listening to the other person, being empathetic at the same time, knowing how to express yourself is important. So again, at the end of the day, it all revolves around how you are as a person, how you present yourself, and how you respect other people and put yourself ahead as an individual.
That's an interesting point, like how you present yourself to other people. There's something that we created. We don't really have a way of explaining it any other way than this, but if you imagine that the word literacy that we're all told is an important skill we all have to learn, it's historically seen as reading, writing, and speech, the ability to read, write, and speak. But we feel that that is quite limiting because there's other types of literacy. And if you imagine you create a Venn diagram of circles where language literacy, so reading, writing, and speech, is one of those literacy aspects, that is also linked to social literacy, right? Because how can you engage with somebody else if you don't really have any language skills, right?
Mhm.
Then linked to social literacy is emotional literacy, because you can't really engage with someone socially if there's no emotional connection. It's very, very difficult, right? And then you have other aspects of literacy like critical literacy, understanding right from wrong and how to make decisions and problem solving. And then you have professional and academic literacy. You might have financial literacy as well, understanding how to run your life, use the resources available to you to thrive. And all of those intersect. And in the middle, what do you have? You have a fully literate person. Now, if you have a fully literate person, or somebody who has mastered to an extent all of those different facets of literacy, that is somebody who has the skills and the wherewithal to navigate the world with freedom, right? And yes,
Absolutely.
all of our parents want us to get the 4.0 GPA. They all want us to get the hundreds of A's and A stars in the UK. But if you are not a literate person and you cannot navigate the world with autonomy, you will end up not really living life. And that's not subjective, that's quite objective. You can apply that to almost any career in the world. I use the word communication interchangeably because really every aspect of this is about communication, even if it's internal communication. Every single career path, everything involves communication at its heart. Nobody in the world can sustain themselves in a vacuum without communicating with other people. Whether you're an artist or a scientist or a doctor or an educator. Great example, Stephen Hawking, one of the greatest minds of all time. If not for his ability to communicate through the technology that was developed for him, how would he have been able to continue showing us how incredible his mind was until the very end of his life? He would have been reduced, unfortunately, to just possibly somebody in a wheelchair, and that's it. And what a great shame that would be. Now, if every child can grow up, regardless of race, economic background, where in the world they were born, gender or ability or lack of ability, was taught how to master enough of an element of those different literacy skills so that they could have autonomy, be free to navigate the world, where would we be as a society? Well, I would argue a better place.
True. Like, this reminds me of this thing that a fully functioning individual, a well-rounded individual, is a person who is having both high level of IQ plus high level of EQ. It just cannot exist solely with only IQ or only EQ. We need to have both. Thank you. Now that we're discussing about Stephen Hawking as an example, could you share a success story of the impact that it has on a child, and how do you measure the success of your initiatives as well?
So there's various metrics for success. When it comes to showing skills attainment, that's very difficult to measure. It's not impossible, it's just really difficult. How do you measure that a child has a better critical thinking skill than they did prior to working with them? You have to rely on a lot of anecdotal evidence and do a lot of testing. If I look at use cases where parents or teachers have come to us after we've worked with their children or worked with them and given us their personal stories, it can get quite emotional. One particular one that I always think of is because it's a child I worked with. And even though I'm not always at the forefront of the education side of things or the pedagogy side of things, I did, for my first few years in the company, teach a weekly critical thinking, logic and reasoning class, which was very popular during the latter stages of the pandemic. And there was one child who obviously I won't name, who I didn't know until after we had finished a 10-week course of these classes, that they had really struggled socially due to the COVID-19 pandemic. They, when the world started to open up again, hadn't felt comfortable leaving the house. In fact, couldn't go to school when the schools opened up again, really very nervous, not just to do with the virus, but socially. They'd been locked away for years. And in our classes where we talked about things like media literacy, we talked about history and archaeology and anthropology, we talked about riddles and problem solving and Socrates and Plutarch and philosophy and all of these wonderful things. And in each of the lessons, we give each pupil the opportunity to really understand that in these classes, there's no right or wrong answer. Because that's most of the world. There is no right or wrong answer. It's about the pursuit of finding an answer that's important, right? We got an email from this parent's child afterwards saying, thank you for helping their child because they now go back to school. They now have more confidence. This child has now joined the debate club at school and is not just more confident with other people, but is at the forefront of putting her hand up in lessons and really coming out of her shell. Now, I think I said earlier, like trying to help children become the best they can be or the best version of themselves, that's very subjective. But if you can look at a measure of success that one child I interacted with feels more confident, is expressing themselves more, is enjoying their education more, is feeling safe enough to express to their parents how they really feel, that is the best measure of success I can think of. That it's still very difficult to quantify, but we have dozens, hundreds of those testimonials from parents and teachers who have gone, our lives, our pupils, our children are really forever changed from not necessarily just working with you at LinkyThinks, but working with these principles and working with these tools and working with these ideas that it's not about winning. It's not about passing. It's about the pursuit of finding answers, even if there's no answer at the end of the road. And that can be applied to any subject. And again, it comes back to you make a child interested in their education. There is no end to education for the rest of their lives. And that was something that I was very fortunate to get in my education, even though the metric of success for me was academic. But in hindsight, I look back on it and go, I am a father of 3. I run my own business. I every day learn something new, and it is never not exciting. And to have been able to give that to children all over the world, not just in the UK where I'm based, that's the metric for my own personal success in what we do at LinkyThinks.
That is really, really inspirational. Like a success story of a child like who struggled with social interaction, not just due to COVID, but also because it was not overall social. But through your help, where you taught to the child that there's no right or wrong answer. It's just about, a way to and pursuit to learning more and exploring different opinions and different ideologies. That's what helped the child gain more confidence and became more engaged, even joined a debate club, like you said. And the heartfelt thank you message from the child illustrated their newfound confidence and growth. So it's just like measuring is through their confidence, them feeling safe and secure to share their opinions with you, with their parents, and feeling happy overall that yes, he or she has been able to, come out of their shell, be more expressive, learn more, and be more confident to express their opinions. And that again will help them to follow that path down of the pursuit of finding answers. Because, like you said, there is no end to education for them for the rest of their lives. So, that impact is when they feel confident, when they feel safe, they feel happy, and they can cultivate a mindset of increasing inclusivity, increasing in curiosity, and lifelong learning at the end of the day. So, thank you so much. That was a really great example and an amazing success story that you shared.
Thank you.
So we also talked about the child feeling more safe about, sharing their opinions with their parents. So how important is parental involvement in the learning process, and what resources does LinkyThinks provide to help parents support their children's education at home?
So I think it depends on the situation. If every child had parents who were able to be as involved in their child's education as some of our most involved parents, it would be really, really helpful. But not every child can have that. Not every family can provide that for whatever reason. So we do many, many things to help with parental involvement in children's education at home, whether it's physical or digital learning resources, whether it's the online tutoring that we do. But if you imagine that you have a child who has a home where parental involvement isn't possible, they're not really going to be able to access our online courses, our online tutoring. If they don't have, so there is a barrier to entry there. So they need a computer device to be able to be in a Zoom room, for example. But that's where the classroom involvement comes in. So we have to be able to approach it from both angles. So our approach is not just to support parents, it's to support teachers too. And we do similar and different things for parents and teachers. So we don't do online tutoring for children in school, but we certainly support a teacher with lesson plans and worksheets and resources, whether that's physical or digital, to help them teach the children in the way that we see that works, and also help them have a little bit more creative control over their lessons. One of the things that we tend to find, especially in the UK, is that teachers are some of our most under-resourced, underappreciated vocational professionals, in so much as that technically it's becoming less and less of a profession because of how society treats teachers and how rigid the curricula tend to be. So what we do is we create these products and resources that give a teacher more flexibility in planning their lessons for their children and allows them to be more adaptive in their approach. So if they have a spectrum of need, whether that's to do with dyslexia or otherwise, we can provide that time and that freedom. The same goes for parents as well. If you have a parent that has multiple children with a spectrum of need, which you will if they're at different ages, even if they are both neurotypical, let's say, we offer not just rigid, these are curriculum-based products and resources, but we have some digital downloadable learning resources on our platform. It's called Downloadables, whereby you can use the same resource to teach two different children of different ages, different abilities, the same topic, just in different ways. And we found so far it's extremely successful, but I think the difficulty with supporting parents is there's such variety in resource access and variety in need. It's not possible to provide a cure-all, unfortunately, and still be a sustainable business. So while we take the approach, we try and be a purpose-driven business, we're still for profit. We have to survive. And it does mean that, unfortunately, there will end up being a barrier to entry for certain children who don't get that parental support at home. But we do hope, with the more that we grow our schools offerings by working with teachers directly and more schools directly, more children can access these resources or these teaching methods, even if it's not possible for them to access it at home.
Indeed, parental involvement, like you said, plays a vital role, but it's not possible for every family. And that's wherein LinkyThink helps to bridge this gap by providing umpteen resources that support both parents and teachers. So when parents can be involved, classroom steps in with resources that foster inclusivity and adaptability. And of course, it helps teachers to get those resources so that they don't feel like they don't have the required amount of resources, and it creates the purpose-driven tools, especially for children with diverse needs, offering multiple ways to engage them with the same topic. And this, of course, ensures, and I'm sure will ensure, students receive the support they need regardless of their circumstances. So looking forward to more, amazing stories regarding the success from you in the future. All right. So I have a fun question to ask you. Well, what is your favorite podcast equipment?
My favorite podcast equipment. Well, I haven't done it in a while, but podcasting is one of my many hobbies and something I'm very passionate about, both the equipment and also the listening to and consuming of podcasts. I think my favorite piece of equipment would have to be the interface that I use to plug my microphone into my computer. Not even the microphones, because for anyone listening who's interested in starting a podcast, you don't need to spend a lot of money on podcasting equipment to start a podcast. You could make an incredible podcast using a phone and recording voice notes, as long as you did it in a quiet space and did as much preparation as possible to make sure the sound quality was good. I started a podcast recording into a terrible microphone under my blankets, like in full darkness, reading my show notes off a phone until I could afford better equipment. So I use something, I might be able to even show you on here if I can reach it round. It's called, I don't know, can you see this at all? It's called the Zoom H6. So it's got a 4 mic input that allows you to have up to 4 people recording in at once.
Ooh,
And it
that's
acts
cool.
as an audio interface. So I can manage the levels from here and go louder and quieter. I can see my levels on. So it's like a soundboard, but much smaller. And the reason why I got this and not a big sound deck is because when I was podcasting, I was traveling all over the UK to interview people, celebrities, artists, writers, musicians in their own homes or in public spaces. So it would allow me to travel with small equipment, and I wouldn't use these big studio microphones. I would use smaller handheld microphones. I could talk about podcast audio equipment for ages. Something that's also been very helpful are these travel lav mics that, in all of the social media videos now, people have these little squares with them,
Yep.
right?
You can plug it
The
in here.
Yeah, you can put them on the lapel, or you can attach lavalier microphones to them, and they come with these little wind mufflers to stop the wind from. These are amazing, especially if you do your own video editing and you want to do a quick interview with somebody or do a social media video and you don't have access to studio equipment. This whole kit, which you could do an interview with in person, costs less than half of this one microphone. And I don't even need an audio interface for me to then put it into my computer for editing. So I would probably say my Zoom H6, but I also really like these Godox lav mics as well.
Thank
I hope
you.
that answers
That's
your
really
question. That
impressive.
was unexpected.
Yeah, absolutely. That was an amazing answer. Well, we also have like amazing comments coming in the chat. There is Miss Monica Joshi. You've met her.
Yes.
Hello, Dan and Namya. Glad to be here. Thank you. I have one of my teacher at school, Mr. Prableen Singh. What a pleasant beginning. Good to see you, Namya and Dan. Thank you so much for joining, sir. Focus and self-control is one of the vital skills. Truly. Holistic development should be regarded as a major aspect for a consistent development. I totally agree with you, Dan. 100%. And that's where linking of things becomes fruitful. Hashtag LinkyThinks.
That's interesting, that, because the reason why it's the company's called LinkyThinks is, so I articulated that literacy model for you. We would call that before my brother, when he started the company, he would say, this is linking different ways of thinking. LinkyThinks. And that's how it came up with the idea for the name of the company, and the methods was through that. So linking of thinking is exactly what we were talking about.
Absolutely. I really love the art piece hung at your wall, Namya. Oh, this one? Well, this one is written like it was surprising. It was a gift to my mom. So it kind of looked like me having a girl, like she's having glasses on her. Just she has a little shorter hair, and it's written, "You have all the power within you." So if I ever feel down or I'm feeling low, I can read that, and yes, I'm back to work.
Amazing.
So it's just like an amazing, look through that you can look at. What's your favorite podcast equipment, Namya? Well, I would say my mic as well, but of course, I think I'll also talk about Stream Deck. Well, that because I can, easily use any keyboard shortcuts, or I can, open umpteen number of files, or if I wanna, play some audio while I'm streaming, or have some display notes, or make my notes for what the guest is talking about. So I think it just helps me to quickly switch to different platforms. But then again, like I think my mic has been my personal favorite. I don't remember the company name, but yeah, like I've been using it like since 2021. So it gives like amazing quality while I'm speaking. And I myself don't use much equipment. It's just like my PC and my mic and a ring light. So not much equipment, but yeah, it helps me to get the work done easily.
Amazing. Well, it's all about the preparation and the work you put in.
Yeah.
You don't need to spend that much money to create a really high value podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for absolutely amazing comments in the chat. And we look forward to more. If you have any question for Dan, please put that in the chat. We'll take that at the end, of course. Of course. So, my next question for you, Dan, is as CEO, what are your future plans for LinkyThinks? And are there any new projects or initiatives on the horizon that you're particularly excited about?
There's quite a few things in the pipeline that I'm really excited about. And it's funny, I never anticipated being a CEO of anything. In fact, when you start a company and call yourself a CEO, it's a little bit silly because I'm chief executive officer of what? At the time, it was me and my brother. And so, yeah, it's a bit ridiculous. But we've gotten to the point now where we've grown the team. We have staff based in the UK where we are now, and we work with developers in Romania, and we've got people in Manchester and London. It's growing. But what we're working on right now, which is really exciting, is an amalgamation of everything that we do into one place. So we're in the process of developing a new LinkyThinks platform. Still will be linkythinks.com. You can go and see it currently, but there's a new version working away in the background that will be released in January 2025. That will be this skills and curriculum platform like we talked about earlier, but it will incorporate those three things that we discussed earlier: online tutoring for children, digital learning resources for parents and teachers, and physical learning resources to use with children. And a fourth one, which hasn't yet been built, but it's in the process, which is a learning management system for teacher training and continued professional development. Something that we're really good at is teaching children. Something that we're about to launch is how to teach teachers how to teach like LinkyThinks teaches. So we're going to be having online courses that you can subscribe to as a teacher or a tutor, so you can teach your pupils, your children, the skills and the methods that we successfully already teach. And that's something that there's been an appetite for a very long time. We've just never been able to offer that. So all being well, by January, that will be ready and launched. And it means that really, as everything starts to grow, it will no longer be very UK centered. We already work with people from all over the world. We have parents and teachers in India, in the Americas, in Australia, New Zealand, anywhere people speak and understand English, because that is our main area. But what we will be launching in 2025, if we can time it correctly, is the LinkyThinks in Canada, LinkyThinks in New Zealand, South Africa, Australia, Ireland, India, the Middle East. Anywhere where English is taught as a primary language, eventually there will be a LinkyThinks platform for that country. So it won't be that you have to, if you're based in the UAE, you won't have to pay in pound sterling or have only British curriculum resources. We will have curriculum resources, resources designed to support the curricula in those various countries as time goes on, as our team grows. And it means that we can support children no matter where they are, no matter their background, as I said before. But that takes time and it takes a lot of growth to get there. So I'm really excited about that. But I won't lie, it's very time consuming, very stressful, but it is the most exciting, fulfilling thing I've ever done in my life outside of being a dad.
Amazing. Like it said, the world is a big classroom and the world is an oyster. So connecting everybody through a single platform. And that's amazing. I really look forward to your future initiatives to get everything together in one comprehensive platform. And the new version, like you said, of LinkyThinks will emphasize skill development like always, with the focus on, of course, creating a learning management system designed to teach educators on how to adopt the unique teaching approach and teaching like LinkyThink teaches. And of course, this initiative will expand the impact of empowering teachers alongside, empowering students as well. That's amazing. Looking forward to it. Thank you. So before we sum up today's discussion, we would love to know where we can find you online and what message would you like to give to the audience that's listening to us right now.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the opportunity as well. So you can find us anywhere on any platform by typing in LinkyThinks. You can find the website, linkythinks.com, that has access to everything, whether you're a parent, a teacher, a school administrator, no matter where you are in the world, and on every social media platform as well. We are probably most active on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, but we also have a YouTube channel that is under-resourced, but there will be more coming out in the next few months. And I would say one resounding message to take away is that the way we as a society, as a world society, approach education, for the most part, is the way we've been doing it for the last 150 years. And that's the definition of insanity, isn't it? Keeping on doing the same thing again and again and again, expecting a different result. There are ways to achieve different results, and we have one of them. And it is about, as we said before, linking different ways of thinking, taking skills attainment alongside academic success. And the most important message I'd really want you to take away is come and have a play. Try us out. Let us know what you think, because I can guarantee if you come to us and tell us that it could be better, we're going to take your feedback on board. Because just like all of you, we're human, we're learning, and we're just trying to do the best version of what we do as we can.
Indeed. So listening to you just today reminds me of this fact that success is born from embracing challenges, learning from failure, and continuously building skills that empower both teachers and students to thrive. And of course, the world is a bandwagon, so we can link things together and move ahead together.
Amazing.
Hashtag LinkyThinks. Thank you so much. It was an amazing discussion, I'm sure. And I had an amazing time talking to you. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you so much, Namir. It's been great to talk to you again.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for joining and listening to this episode. I'll see you on the next one. Till then, each one, teach 10. Have a nice day.